Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. So I recently got a Lamy 2000 after really humming and hawing about it for a number of years. I've also got a couple of Lamy 2000 lookalikes. So what I thought we'd do today is just a quick comparison between the three of them. So one of these is a Lamy 2000. One of these is a Kaco Edge. And one of these is a Jinhao 80. Just looking at it like this, very hard to tell the difference. In fact, I couldn't tell you which is which. The only way really to find out is to take the caps off. So that first one, there's the Lamy 2000. Here we've got the Kaco Edge. So that must mean this one is the Jinhao 80. So what I thought I'd do, just a very quick comparison, seeing how they look, how they compare to each other. We'll do some writing samples with them. Join me now, down on the table. Let's jump on in and take a look at these pens. Welcome down to the table. So, three pens. I've got to be honest, looking at them now, I can't tell you which one's which. I've put them out in just any old order. One of them is a Lamy 2000. The other two are lookalikes. We've got a Jinhao 80. We've also got a Kaco Edge. Can you tell the difference between them? Because I've got to be honest, looking at this, I'm struggling. Let's have a quick walk through the bodies and hopefully see if we can work out which pen is which. Size-wise, we'll do some size comparisons and measurements in a minute. All look very similar, don't they? Roughly the same length, roughly the same width. The bodies are slightly different, especially if you look down here near the bottom. The middle one, that's tapering off a lot more sharply. The one at the front, this one still tapering off but not as sharp. And then the one at the back doesn't seem to taper off nowhere near as much. One thing that may give it away, if you look on the bottoms, here we've got some discs. There's no disc on this. There's like a dark metal coloured one there and more like a silver dot on that third one. Let's pop these back again. Oh, I don't know, we're getting all muddled. There we go, they're all popped back. The caps, the one at the front looks like it's got a button on the top, then there's a cutout area. I'm guessing that might be the Lamy. The one in the middle, again we've got a little bit of that button shape, but a very narrow cutout line. Then one at the top, nothing. The clips, the one at the bottom and the one in the middle, the clips look virtually identical to me. Just give you a better view of that. Let me turn them around like this. Whereas the one at the top, that's a solid chunk of metal. I know that that's not the Lamy 2000. I think that's the Kaco Edge. The colouring, the bottom two, the colour looks virtually the same. I would say the bottom one is a little bit more of a matte colour. We've got a little bit more shininess in the middle one. The one at the top, that just looks like a dark grey rather than that more black colour I'm expecting to see with the macrolometers. Let's pop the caps off. This is where we're going to start to see the difference. So the bottom, the cap pulls off. That reveals a hooded nib. This is the Lamy 2000. The middle one, the cap, pulls off. This reveals a Lamy style nib. This is the Jinhao 80, which means the one at the top, that's more of a standard style nib, like a number 5 nib. That's the Kaco Edge. We go three very different looking pens once we take the cap off. The Lamy 2000 piston filling pen. Very high attention to detail. You can hardly see the line. The line is here. I know it's there because I'm looking for it. That's where you work the piston mechanism. You can hardly see it. Jinhao 80. Cartridge converter. Kaco Edge. Cartridge converter. Let's take a quick look at the nibs. So with the Kaco Edge, so the one at the top, here, that more standard looking nib, got the logo. Underneath the logo, we've got the word Germany, then M, medium nib. with the Jinhao Lamy style nib. Got the Jinhao logo, Jinhao F. This is a fine nib. I'm going to do a separate video where I'm actually going to swap the nib on this with a Lamy nib, and we'll see how that goes. The final nib. This is that hooded nib. This is the Lamy 2000. You can only just see the end of the nib there. This is a broad nib, and it's more of a stub type of nib rather than a standard broad, and I do like that. I was a little bit surprised when I received it, but once I started writing with it, it looks so nice. We'll see that when we do our writing sample. Now I've got to try and remember which lid it goes on which pen. Let's swap on over and we'll do some size comparisons. Just a quick size comparison today. Pilot Metropolitan, Lamy Safari. All the pens much for muchness in terms of size. Let's pop the caps off. With the caps off, the Kaco edge slightly longer than the Lamy 2000, which is slightly longer, and we're talking a little bit, than that Jinhao 80. We'll do some measurements in a minute. In the hand, there's the Lamy 2000. There's the Jinhao 80. And there's the Kaco edge. All three pens look nice in the hand. Let's swap on over and do some weights and measures. Here we've got the rule of measuring. We're going to start with the Jinhao 80. So the Jinhao 80, that's the one with the bright metal plate. With the top on, 13.9 centimetres. Unposted, 12.3 centimetres. Posted, 15.3 centimetres. The width of the body is 1.26. The width of the cap is 1.42. And the section goes from 0.96 down here up to 1.18. The Kaco edge, 13.8, 13.9, so within margin of error, same length. Unposted, if I can stop it from rolling off, 12.9 centimetres, slightly longer. Posted, 15.3, exactly the same. The width of the body, 1.18 centimetres, a little bit narrower. The width of the cap, 1.39, within margin of error the same. The width of the section goes from 0.93, so it's slightly narrower down here at the bottom, up to 1.1, so again slightly narrower. With the Lamy 2000, 13.8, 13.9, same as the other two. Uncapped, 12.3, same as the Jinhao 80. Posted, does post, 15.3, same as the other two. Width of the body, about here, that's the widest, is 1.21, so in between the width of the other two. The width of the cap, 1.41, within tolerance as being the same as that Jinhao 80. The section, down here, the narrowest was 1 centimetre, that goes up to 1.1, so slightly wider as that starting measurement, but again, it's within the terms, it's within the bounds of possibility that they're the same, and that was just as accurate as I could get it. Let's swap over and fetch in the scales of weighing. Starting off with the Jinhao 80, the full pen, 20 grams. The body, remember we've got ink in this, just going to use the cap there to try and hold it still, 13 grams. The cap, 7 grams. The Kaco edge, slightly heavier, you do feel that, 25 grams. The body, again I'm just going to stop it rolling, 13 grams. The cap, 13 grams, so the extra weight all in the cap. The Lamy 2000, full pen, 26 grams, slightly heavier than that Kaco edge. The body, 17 grams, so extra weight here in the body, but it does hold more ink. The cap, 9 grams. That's the way it's done. Let's swap on over and fetch in the notepad of testing. Just dropping in to interrupt your regular programming. Would you like to help support the channel? If so, please consider joining as a member. As a member, you'll get early access to my videos. I normally upload them a couple of days before they go out, and as soon as they're uploaded, they'll be released to members. There'll also be a shout out at the end of the videos, and then as we get the members coming in, we'll actually chat among ourselves and work out what other perks, what other things you'd like me to add in. You know, would you like maybe a monthly live chat just for members? All down to us. So please, if you can, consider joining the channel. A link will be in the description down below. Today's notepad of testing, Oxford Optic paper. This is 90 GSM paper, nice fountain pen friendly. This is a B5 notebook made by Oxford. So we're going to do these in price. So we're going to start here with a Jinhao 80. So we've got a Jinhao 80. This has got a fine nib. Price wise, $5 Aussie. The Diamine, the ink, Diamine, writer's blood. Going to do one of the Wasky Squirrel style grids. I do like these. So this is going up and down, side to side. Checks, and then diagonal ones. Drying time, there's immediate, 10 seconds. 10 seconds, virtually dry. No real value going on further than that. So this is a very quick drying combo. We'll come back and write a sentence in a minute. Next up, Kaco edge. There we go. So we've got a Kaco edge. A lot wider line. A lot softer feeling nib. This is a medium nib. Price wise, this is $22 Aussie. The ink by Diamine. It's writer's blood. I've got the same ink in all 3 pens. We'll do our grid. So this is filling this up a lot easier than it was with that fine nib. To be honest, I would say this is more like a broad nib the way it puts down its line. There we go. Then we've got diagonal. Drying times, so we got immediate. You can already tell, a lot wetter. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Wow, look at that. 30 seconds, and now that's gone from being really wet at 10 seconds to dry at 30. That's quite interesting, that. So that's the Kaco edge. Our final pen, the Lamy 2000. Just move this up ever so slightly, just knock that title off there. So we've got here a Lamy 2000 with a broad nib. I like the line variation. You know, that stub on this looks really nice. Price wise, you do pay for this pen. 316 Aussie dollars. Do the grid. Yeah, look at the way that fills up. Such a smooth writing nib, this. See there, the difference between the down line and the cross strokes. I'll just do a quick hash mark here so you can actually see it better. And then diagonals. Again, you can see the difference there because of that stub. Drying times, so we got immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, Still smudging a bit. 1 minute. After a minute there, now we're dry. Let's move the paper up. I'm going to fetch the pens out in the same order, move the mic down to the page and write a sentence with each of them. So we start with the Jinhao 80. Can't get quite all the way over the page, but there's enough there that we can see. That's nice. There's nice feedback. There's a nice sound to it, nice audible feedback. A little bit of tactileness. The nib does feel quite stiff. The Kaco edge. That one's a bit quieter. I can hear the converter rattling against the side of the pen as I'm writing. Doesn't feel as stiff. It's got a nice softness to the nib. The line looks very generous. As I say, it says it's a medium. To me, it's more like a broad. Very nice line it's putting down there. Finally, the Lamy 2000. With that one, I can hardly hear it writing. Don't think you've heard anything all over the mic. It's got a very smooth flow to it. Not quite like writing on ice, but it's getting close to that. It just glides over the paper as if it's really self-lubricating. There's very little tactileness to it at all. So that's the Lamy 2000. So what are my thoughts on these pens? This was quite an interesting experiment to do, looking at 3 pens that look very identical, but 3 pens that each of them, to be honest, is in a different price range. We've got the dirt cheap $5 Jinhao 80. It's a nice pen. It writes well. Yes, it's a fine nib, and it is a fairly thin fine nib for me. As I've already said, I'm planning for a future video where I'm going to actually compare the nib with an actual Lamy nib and actually swap them over and see what it looks like writing with different nib on there. So that's going to be an interesting future video. So keep your eyes out for that one. The Kaco edge doesn't look quite the same. Got a different clip, slightly different colouring, but shape-wise very, very similar. Beautiful, gorgeous, generous nib. Really wet writer. Now, $22 is what they charge now. When I bought this, it was something like $10. It was a lot cheaper than that. But nowadays, when I checked earlier on, 22 Aussie dollars. So it's in that we're starting to get up towards the end of that affordable range. But I still think it's a good pen. Cartridge converter, like we saw with the Jinhao 80. The Lamy 2000 is such a joyful pen to use. It's the nib, very, very smooth. Now, I normally like a bit of feedback, but with this stubby nature of the broad nib, puts down such a character-filled line. You know, see here on the sentence, we're getting different tones, whereas with the middle one, which was from that edge, looks very dark. The bottom one, we're seeing more of the colour coming through, and we are seeing some different tones as well. So I do think it puts down a very nice line. But is it worth paying $316? As a point of interest, I did a little bit of maths. I could buy 63 Jinhao 80s for the same price as that Lamy 2000. I could buy 14 of the Kaco edges for the same price as that Lamy 2000. You know, you need to bear that in mind. You need to bear in mind your budget. But you also need to bear in mind you are getting what you pay for. This is not a longevity test. You know, that's going to take years for me to do. But I can see the Lamy 2000 being around for years, whereas I'm not As sure with the other two, I still like reaching for the Lamy 2000. I've had all three of these inked up for about 3 weeks now, and they've all been sat next to each other in the pen pouch. And I will be honest, the 2000 is the one that I've reached for every time I've gone to get one of these. So yes, it is more, but is it psychologically that I'm reaching for it because I know it's more, or is it because I truly enjoy writing with it? That's a hard thing for me to answer. Of these 3 pens, I'm glad I've got all 3. I don't often use the Kaco Edge. I think I need to do something about that. I need to get that out more often because it is a nice, generous writer. I think the Jinhao 80, once I've done that nib swap, I'm planning on putting a broad Lamy nib on there. As long as there's no issues, I can see that being used more often. But then you've got to add on the price of the nib, which I don't know, is about maybe $25-ish. So you're taking it up to the same price range as the Edge then. Lamy 2000, I say, just a beautiful, joyful pen to use. Very, very nice line. Very nice experience. So hard to pick between the 3. But it'd be the Lamy 2000 I think I would go for if I had to pick one of these pens to keep. So these are my thoughts on the Lamy 2000 and a couple of its lookalikes. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Amazing how similar they are in looks, in weights, in size, isn't it? Quite difficult. I'm just sat here still trying to see, is there an easy way to tell the difference? There isn't. Have you got any of these pens? Have you got all 3? Have you tried doing a comparison between them? I'd love to get your thoughts, your comments on this. Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.